ministry is Genesis, and Genesis means beginning. So this is the beginning of something great. Do not despise the day of small beginnings. Everything big starts in a manger in very small doses. Anyways, Roberto Hernandez, I am from Florida. I'm not from Florida, I'm from New Jersey, but I moved here in 2001, Orlando, Florida. I live in Naples, I live in West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, and here I am in Orlando, Florida too. Old Town is where it really happened for me. Anyways, we're gonna talk about messing up, right? You guys call it F up, we call it fracaso in Spanish, we call it failing, right? But let me tell you something, every failure can be turned into a triumph, right? And every mess can be turned into a message if we hold on long enough. Today, among all my failures, I'm gonna speak about one. I chose one in particular, and when they spoke to me about this one, about this event, this one just stood out, and I never spoke about it because I always like to talk about my positives, my triumphs, not my tribulations. But I have a mentor. I was blessed to have a mentor by the name of Dr. Miles Monroe, and he wrote a book on leadership, and he has a chapter in there that talks about how to fall up. Isn't that cool? In other words, we rise from failures. Rock bottom is the best place to be at. You want to know why? There's only one way, and that's up. So don't be afraid to be all the way at the bottom. Sometimes that's where your biggest breakthrough comes from. So anyways, I was working in the fitness industry, guys. I found my niche in the fitness industry. I tried it in Miami, it didn't work out. I moved to Orlando, Florida. I said, let me give it one more shot. And I had all the signs leading to work in this fitness industry. By the way, there's a whole bunch of clubs here, LA Fitness. I was actually one of the responsible ones to get them started. I found my niche there. They gave me a club, I went into it, and I'm telling you, I found my niche. By the way, the word niche actually means a comfortable and a suitable place in both life and employment. When I worked in the fitness industry, I actually emerged. And all the employers around me said, man, you know what? You are in your sweet spot. You found your niche. And it was so because the gym was failing until I got there. 11 people walked in, 11 people left with a membership. In fact, the owner came, flew in his private jet, shook my hand and said, thank you for bringing my gym or our fitness club from zero to hero. I mean, I was in my domain. Woo! Have you ever been there before? Where you're just in your sweet spot and everything is working out for you. I was able to drive the good cars, a nice watch, diamond bracelets, a nice ring, and I always had a nice pen, a Mont Blanc pen. Because I always wanted, I was a superstar and a nice car parked outside. I was in my domain and I was rocking it. I was killing it. And then the company decided to transfer me to another place. I mean, it didn't work in Orlando until I moved it didn't work in Miami until I moved to Orlando. So location, geographical location has a lot to do with where you're going to flourish, where you're going to emerge. But now they sent me back to Southwest Florida. And guess who lives in Southwest Florida? A lot of snowbirds. So you can't really make a lot of money from snowbirds all year round. You only make 3 months. And these people were coming to the gym and only signing up for three months at a time. And I wasn't making money. I wasn't shining like before, and I hate not shining. Because we have light, how many know that? We're supposed to shine, and sometimes when we can't shine, we have to get creative and innovative. And I got creative in this gym. You know what I did? I got every single person to sign up on a 3-month membership to see me first. Before paying the front desk, let me talk to them, let me see if I could convince them to buy a membership, use that money as a down payment, and when they go back home to Detroit, Chicago, Illinois, wherever they're from, they can use the gym there as well. So I got a whole bunch of people to convert. Instead of buying a 3-month membership, using that money to buy as a deposit, and then freezing their membership whenever they weren't using it. But the majority of the times people don't freeze their memberships, they actually use it, right? So that's one way I became creative and it worked out. And then I got a little greedy. I said, let me do something else. The ones that didn't want to sign up, had no interest in LA Fitness or in the gym that I was managing, I got them to still give me the money. I gave them 3 months membership for free, and I used their deposit to call other people who couldn't afford the initiation fee. And I said, guess what? We got a special. I got your initiation fee. All you got to do is pay the monthly. Everybody got excited. I said, but you got to be here in 30 minutes. And I just made more money. I became more popular, and I got another gym that was all the way in the bottom, a seasonal gym, to be all the way in the top. And boy, I was shining. It felt good. No matter where I went, I got creative and I figured it out. But as a leader, I could do that. At the same time, while I'm doing that, I'm stealing money from the front desk because that's how they make their money. And I was using that to make the real money because the gym sustains itself by your monthly dues, right? Not just your present subscription. So I did very well until I taught this bad habit to one employee. How many know sometimes leaders in the environment will get away with a lot of things, and you could get very creative, but when you start teaching the things that you're doing to your followers and they don't do it as good as you, that's when everything crumbles. Well, guess what? It did crumble, and I got fired. Yes, the responsibility was mine because everything starts and ends with leadership. How many believe that? I took responsibility. I called the corporate office. I said, guess what? I operated not in faith, but by fear in order to keep myself afloat. And this is what I did. And these are all the numbers. And these are all the people that I owe. A down payment that I was going to take from other people who came seasonal. And actually, you know what? A lot of the VPs thought that was genius. They said, wow, this guy is genius. He made it work. But you still got to lead by example. And one of the things that I have in my DNA is that I'm pretty positive. While I was in the gym business, guess what? I got 5 people married. I introduced people to each other and they got married. I said, man, I'm so in my zone that I could be a therapist. I motivated people. I got people that come to the gym. And sometimes when a husband and a wife come to the gym and the guy looks all bulked up, I used to tell them, hey, even though you're a gym person, don't become a gym rat and sacrifice the time that you eat with your wife and your family. So I used to even unite families. I was like, man, I was in my zone. I was fixing problems. But when I got to that gym, I got fired. And imagine from being all the way up here and being in my zone to fired. Now when I got fired, confusion and even depression set in. I was confused. The word confused actually means to not see or think clearly or to be bewildered. That's how I felt. I was so confused, and that actually led to a little form of depression. Positive Robert and depression. I didn't want nobody to see it. But I got depressed. I was living in this condo right by the water, and I was right by the water, and even looking at the water and looking at the beach didn't make me feel better. I was actually depressed. I would drink coffee every morning, and with my coffee, I adapted the habit of smoking 2 cigarettes. Yeah, nobody knew. My teeth are still white. Thank God I stopped in season, in time. But anyways, and I noticed something. I had the most unusual experience. Every single time that I went to light up a cigarette, I took the cigarette out, I lit it up. I identified, I did it 2 times that morning and identified something that occurred the 2 times that I did it. Guess what it was? Thought process. I was thinking about fear. What if things don't work out? Now you're fired. What about if things don't work out? What about if from here on you go down and you lose credibility? Oh, you messed up your reputation. Whoa. And guess what I did? I identified the both times that I lit up a cigarette, I was thinking thoughts of fear. How many know that fear, F-E-A-R, stands for false evidence appearing real? That's what it is. That was a lie. And then I started substituting those thoughts with positive thoughts. Even though fear means false evidence appearing real, I said, and I started rehearsing, what if things don't work out? What if things go from bad to worse? And then I started rehearsing, substituting those thoughts and I started rehearsing, what if things continue to work out? What if things continue to work out as they have thus far? And by renewing those thoughts, all of a sudden I looked at a cigarette, I didn't want to light up the 3rd one. And I learned something. Most smokers say, I just smoke to alleviate stress. It's true. Stress is a result of a thought pattern. And I started substituting the thoughts, and then I started thinking positive, and I changed my thinking. How many know that the good book says that as a man thinks in his heart, so is he? Everything starts with your thought process. I was about to be depressed. The longer I wallowed in misery by what I was thinking. And I substituted those thoughts with positive thoughts of faith, and all of a sudden I had a girlfriend at the time. How many know that women are powerful? Women have radars that men don't have. That's why 2 are better than 1, and a 3-fold cord cannot easily be broken. So I had a girlfriend at the time. Thank God she wasn't the right one for eternally. She was temporary. But thank God I had her for that time, at that moment, and for that season, through my depression, my confusion, and my fearful journey. And she always told me about it. She had a publication, very popular publication, and she told me about a publication that I could publish. And I got a publication. Right away, I got to work on my publication with her help. It was called Miracle Magazine. Guess what I did, folks? Many years ago, I saved somebody from committing suicide, and I came out in the front page of the paper. And she said, start with that story. I put that story in there, and then I started interviewing a whole bunch of people. And guess what, folks? I learned that 99.9% of you guys have stories. And they're powerful stories. And those stories I used to collect, put them in a publication during the first recession in 2008, 2009. And guess what? All of a sudden I had companies like Mercedes-Benz, Porsche, Nissan, colleges, Verizon, they were advertising in my publication. And thank God I was able to get out of my funk. Two things I take out of this. Number one, I had to self-discover. Say self-discover. To change your mind, you can have the help of, you can have the assistance of people around you, but you have to be determined to self-discover, to change your thought pattern, because you're ultimately going to be how you think in your heart. And I found that lesson by myself while drinking coffee. The second thing is I united with the girlfriend right away. And I said, let's start that project that you encouraged me to do. And folks, I kept busy, because the last thing you want to do when you're depressed, is to stay idle. So I started moving, and all of a sudden I started visiting all these companies, and everybody donated. I made money while I was fired by getting advertisers to advertise in something that I love, just interviewing people, having them tell their story, and companies will advertise, and I was able to live. And I thought it was going to be a one-time gig. I came back to Orlando, and the company started calling me back up, and they said, we want to advertise back in your publication again. Come back. Went back to Naples, Florida. Then I started meeting some very interesting people. See, one thing leads to another. And I met this man one day that told me, I want to introduce you to my wife. She sounds just like you. He introduced me to his wife. She was a speaker as well. And I asked his wife, who overwhelms you? And she gave me this name of this guy that I look up to, and I read all his books when I lived in Trinidad, and he was her mentor. Boy, if he's her mentor, he's going to be my mentor. And he mentored me for 4 years. Then he died. But for those 4 years, I was mentored by one of the best. And he's called Mr. Purpose. And today I got Purposeman.com. I got my message from my mess. Guess what my message is? Firing people up to pinpoint and pursue their purpose. I help people find their purpose in life. And I don't have to do it in a stage. I do it on a one-to-one basis. I talk to people 6 months later. They write to me and said, I met you in Washington, D.C. in a hotel. Remember me? This is what I'm doing now. Thank you. Whoa. Do you know how that feels? My mess became a message. So I do real estate right now. Real estate is just my job. That's what I'm paid, or that's my income. But purpose speaking is my impact. So most human beings have to be involved in one thing to be successful, but two at most. You can't be the jack of all trades. So sometimes you have to do your job, is what you're paid to do, but your work is what you're born to do. And if you're only doing what you're paid to do, there's a form of depression also that will kick in. So make sure that if you're only doing what you're paid to do, unless what you're paid to do has to do with what you're born to do, if it doesn't, make sure you're also balancing your life, doing what you're born to do also, and figure that out by self-discovering. So that was my takeaway. I started that magazine, and today I speak internationally. I just came from Jerusalem, Sweden. I go to all these places and speak to people on how to find their purpose, speak to lives on how to find their purpose. And in the process, I don't have to beg nobody. I'm making an income through it. Isn't God good? Anyways, that's my story in a nutshell. The two takeaways, what are they? Community, the girlfriend who helped me get to my vision. And number two, self-discovery. Take time to internalize, to change your thinking, because as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. I conclude. Is that okay?